Hi, my name is Brooke Lippman,
And I'm Dr. Deb Lipman,
and this is Wine Together,
a podcast where we drink some wine and have a chat.
So sit back, relax, and get that corkscrew ready.
Anyway, okay, so today we have as our special guest, because the end of the month, have a guest on. Our guest is Brooke's sister-in-law, my daughter-in-law, Crystal. And we are so excited to have you because, I haven't seen you in like a few months.
I know, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has. And so, wow, so good to have you on. We want to hear all about, your life there in North Carolina. I mean, I know I grew up there, so I know a lot of it. And the only thing that's changed really is some of the roads from when I was a kid. But they might all be the same for you. So I'm not sure. So I would, people have heard me mention my oldest son, Justin, on the show. So Crystal is married to my oldest son, Justin. Crystal is the mother to my granddaughter. Oh, if we need to cut that out, we will.
I can bleep out names.
We can bleep out names. So we'll go bleep out names. So my oldest, my only granddaughter, and my grandson. So welcome. Thank you, Crystal, for joining us. So tell me about your wine. What are you drinking? And I'll tell you about ours.
Honestly, I don't remember what it was called. It's a Grigio that I got from Costco.
Okay.
For $6.99.
Is it a rosé or white? It's a white?
It's a white. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. I like that you're budget friendly with your wine the way we are. We like our budget friendly wines. The one we have today is Ophelia. It's from it's the Nero Diablo grapes, and they're grown mostly in Sicily. You know, that cute little island at the tip of the toe of the boot of Italy. So there is what it is. But look, full disclosure, everybody, I'm having to drink cranberry juice because my cardiologist, even though my cardiologist said, you need to drink more wine because your heart is very healthy. You need to get an e-bike, just ride around town and just be free and drink your wine and blah, blah, blah. And then I went to the doctor last Wednesday. He said, no alcohol. And he said it like it was going to be forever. And I was like, So I'm going to do this for 6 weeks. I'm going to be good for 6 weeks and see what happens. But, my liver's good. My heart's good. So I'm really confused why he wants to be so drastic. But, some doctors are like that. And that's what we're just going to honor it.
Yeah.
He did give me some lavender oil pills, though.
Okay.
So, really? Lavender oil pills, but can't have a glass of wine. What's that?
What's it supposed to help with? I've never heard of those.
I guess anxiety. But he gave me 2 things for the anxiety, and they're both non-chemical. And so one is the lavender oil that you take as needed. And guess what? This weekend I needed it.
Yeah.
And so then the other one is called Relaxana. And I don't remember what all the herbs are in it, but it's banned in the US.
Okay.
So I'm taking a banned anti-anxiety, I don't want to call it a drug because it's not a drug, it's a supplement, an herb supplement.
It could have drugs in it.
I mean, I guess, but it's kind of funny. But yeah, so that's for the anxiety. And so we'll see. So I have to take, I don't know if you've seen my Facebook post yet for today.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I gotta tell you what Todd and I did today, and I want to hear what you did yesterday. So, but today we had this thing, it's called Slow Up. So they basically shut down all the roads from cars. And it was like 46 kilometers, but we ended up going over 50 because we rode to the site on our
Okay.
bikes. So we rode our bikes, and we don't have e-bikes, just regular bikes.
Wow.
And we rode 50 kilometers a day with no cars on the roads. And it was so awesome. And it's called Slow Up, and they close the roads to cars, to auto traffic, to make people slow up for a
Okay.
day, for a Sunday, which was,
I like-
and they do it throughout May and June. They do this in a lot of the different cantons in Solothurn. I mean, in Switzerland. So today happened to be Solothurn, which is where we live. And so we did the Slow Up bike ride. I did have to push my bike up a couple of hills because I couldn't make it. But it's because there are so many people and all the little farms. This is what you're gonna love. All the farms, because the road is closed to car traffic, the farmers come out and they have their food out there. They're like, we had this homemade potato salad and
Oh my
these bratwursts.
Mhm.
And so that's what we had, but they had pulled pork barbecue at different places. Anyway, all the farms kind of have, their stuff out there. And
That's
some of them had cute little drinks that you could do. But every time you come to one of those farms, it's like a bottleneck. All these bicycles, because there had to be at least 10,000 bicycles out there. And they some are stopping, some are trying to ride through. And so there's just this bottleneck at every farm. And so you have to navigate, really carefully. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I couldn't believe I did it, but
that's a lot.
it was a lot. I will be sore for a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, I heard you had an adventure yesterday.
Oh yes, we did. So my work sponsors a day at Carowinds every year, where they close all the branches and we can all go to Carowinds. And so I went with Justin, and he's 3.5 now. And it was an adventure. Justin and went off for a little while to ride some rides while I encouraged to go on a couple things. Fan, but we got in a lot of exercise.
Okay.
A lot of walking. And it was very hot. And I got to introduce everyone to some of my favorite coworkers.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's always good.
Yeah, it is. Because then, like if I know that you forwarded a post, it's a very sad post about the missing person in Greensboro. But still, when somebody happens to read your post and one of your coworkers replies or something, then that person has a face.
Yeah, face to it.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. I'm glad you got to introduce people
Yeah.
to coworkers. So did you ride anything?
I rode some of the kiddie rides.
Okay.
But I used to be a really big roller coaster person, but I don't know. I've just hit my limit and it's not my thing anymore.
Yeah. That's funny because I remember hitting my limit. But, I don't know if it'll change for you, but, I never thought I'd get back on a bicycle. But
yeah.
So that kind of changed.
Okay.
But Brooke, have you been to Carowinds?
Nope.
Really?
Nope. Never been.
Have you been to any theme park?
Other than Disney?
Yes.
Nope.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've only been to Disney World. You went when you were 6?
Yeah. And then
for your eighth birthday?
Oh, was it 8 and not 11?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know when it was. I thought it was 8th birthday.
It might have been. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, 16 and last year was her first time there.
No.
So, and she was not a roller coaster person.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I don't do roller coasters.
Yeah. I like you, when I was younger, man, I couldn't get enough roller coasters.
Yeah. It's that stomach feeling
Yes.
be fun, and now it like just makes me want to puke. I
Yeah.
can't.
Well, I have to headed up one of the hills. Okay, I got to tell you where this hill was headed to, and you're gonna love this because only in Switzerland they're gonna name a town Schnottville. So we were headed to Schnottville,
Okay.
and it's up a very tall hill, and I was like, I'm not good. I'm not good. And Todd's riding in front of me, and everything suddenly just looked like the whole world was going off in little pieces. And my
Uh-oh.
eyes were like, I said, okay, I know the doctor said my heart was healthy, but I looked down at my watch and it said my heart rate was at 162. And so I yelled, Todd, I have to stop. And so I pulled off and he pulled off and he said, are you going to throw up? And I was like, nope, but something's wrong. And I told him what my heart rate was. He said, I am so glad you told me to stop. Because honestly, I was going to try to push through, but I couldn't see. And then, we're riding, like I said, with all these people. And I mean, there's little kids.
Mhm.
And of course, they can't go as fast. And so it was just like, okay, I'm going to hit this kid or, so there was a lot of,
Oh.
it was kind of, but it was still,
Sure.
I love the farms.
Mm.
Okay. And I got to tell you and I'm going to let Brooke tell you what a Swiss milkshake is. We had
What?
milkshakes. We had Swiss milkshakes at one of the farms. Remember the milkshakes?
No. I don't think I know.
They're
what
like
you're
milk. They're not milkshakes. It's
Oh,
like,
you mean like the
it's like cold milk.
like the I don't think I I don't
I
think I
thought
know
you
what you're
had a
talking about.
milkshake.
No, I don't think
But
so.
it's just cold milk.
Okay.
But Todd's was mocha flavored, and I had the vanilla.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like I said, it's not a milkshake like what you think. But they had this big sign, milkshakes, 300 meters, milkshakes, and I was like, we're stopping and getting milkshake. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was the one farm I wanted to stop at, and then of course it was just milk.
Still refreshing though.
It was good. It was refreshing and it was good. And it gave me some energy to finish up because
Yeah.
we were only about halfway during that point. So what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done, even if it was before kids?
Oh.
BK.
No. Okay, so before kids, I went on a last minute road trip, not a huge road trip, to Virginia with my sister, to see a band. And after kids, after I got married, there was a year where we like followed the Avett brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the furthest we went for that was Tennessee. That was
I remember one weekend
so
you
far.
went to see the Avett brothers, and somebody got to stay with me at our little house in Wake Forest. And she is no longer that little. She was
No.
so tall.
So
She was, yeah. Oh my goodness. Maybe was
Like-
she like 2 or 3 then too?
Yeah.
Yeah. When y'all did that, I remember that. Yeah, because I think they were in Chapel Hill maybe that weekend or something.
Because yeah, we don't leave the house very much anymore.
And that's okay. I remember. That'll change again. I know, but yeah, that's I remember. I remember those days not going far at all. Well,
fine.
the kids they do keep you busy. But it has that cute little. You have to bleep that again.
Okay.
That little house outside. Now I have not seen his truck that he got except videos.
Yes. So the truck is now broken.
Oh no.
Something it won't charge, and we can't figure out like which cords are not charging or whatever.
Yeah.
It was really fun for like the couple months that it worked, but now it's not.
Yeah.
Working.
Is he upset about that?
Not really.
Oh, good.
He'll try to get in it and then get mad and then get out, but doesn't seem to be too upset.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he likes to make things work with his own hands anyway. Like
Yeah.
that compost thing that you got.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He acts like it's a toy of his.
Oh yeah.
But he will roll the compost and get the dirt mixed up. It's just the best. And at first I really thought it was one of his toys because he just goes straight to it when he goes outside. and gets working it. So it's kind of funny, but. So, Brooke, tell me what happened to you about a year ago. It was, in fact, just 1 year ago today.
Yeah, I graduated from college.
Oh my God.
It was 1 year ago today.
Here.
A year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, what are your plans? I mean,
Well,
you heard of something this past weekend. Something this weekend.
yeah, I
Like it.
signed up for this like community theater thing. It's like all volunteer stuff. They sent me an email back yesterday
good.
that I need to reply to. They were like, "Oh, like we'll send you information like through our newsletter and like about auditions and how you can get involved and all that." So I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
I also applied for a job this week, right? Or was it Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday that I did at the last minute?
Oh, yes.
And I don't think I'm gonna hear back from them because
Well,
I
I
am
don't know.
very underqualified and probably more underqualified than anyone that is applying for it. So,
You just never know. I mean,
well, I mean, like that one job that I applied for in October that I was probably one of the most qualified people to do, they were like, we don't even want to give you an interview. So, like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's frustrating, but you had to search for jobs. You know how hard that is.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It is a lot. Yeah, I know. I hate to be one of those people that says, "Well, at these days you got to know somebody,"
Mm-hmm.
but you really do.
No, really.
I mean,
Very true.
you really do have to kind of have a foot in the door with
Mhm.
somebody already there, kind of, and then put that word in. In fact, that's what somebody said to me. Said, "Hey, I'm going to put a word in for you. I'm going to send me your resume. I'm going to tell because she's leaving her position." She said, "I'm going to tell him that to hire you for my replacement." Of course, they've not called me, but but you do. You just kind of have to know somebody. I mean, and you think about that. Think about how many people are actually in the world right now that are at the age that they can work. There's actually not that many jobs compared to the number of people.
Exactly.
So someone's going to have to be without a job.
Yeah. Everyone's fighting. That's the problem with it, is because there's so few jobs available and so many people that are looking for jobs. Because even if you look at like big websites like Indeed, it'll tell you how many people have applied, and they're like 800 people have applied for this position. Like 800 people in your state are unemployed and qualified for this position. That's why.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and now employers are just kind of running these applications through AI. So a lot of people aren't even getting a hit to be able for it to come back, and so you have to play a game with them.
Yeah.
And I'm just not a game player. You know what I'm saying? You either respect me and accept me, or because I'm not going to lie
Right.
on my application. And I think that, and some people say, well, it's not really lying, just kind of embellish a little bit. To me, that's lying. So I kind of, I struggle a little bit.
I know. Well, I mean, that's why I was like, oh, well, if we do a podcast, like you can make, like if you get kind of popular, you can make a little bit of money from it. I'm like, I mean, that's a good way to build up experience with like creating stuff, because that's kind of what that's what I want to do, right? But I also would love to be self-employed anyway. So.
Yeah, I would say. I would love to have something where, it could be family also, kind of everybody could, we could all make enough money through a family-owned business. But, I don't know.
We just need a farm.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you something. There's lots around here.
Well, we had an idea for like a barbecue restaurant, that we would put in a barn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. Because it's so funny, at least here. I mean, I know in America, in the United States, it's hard to get a restaurant and be successful year after year after year. But, once it's established, you're golden there in the US. But here, restaurants pop up all the time. They'll be here for a little while. They'll either switch owners or, and they just kind of go away. Sometimes that one on the corner has been open twice since we've been here. And it doesn't seem to be kind of like that big a deal. And also people seem to be able to run their restaurant and, they'll take 2 weeks of vacation in the summer, it's closed. They'll take a couple of weeks throughout the year, different times, like around Christmas and Easter. And the restaurant will be closed for a week, 2 weeks at a time. And they seem to be making enough money that it's okay.
Wow.
They can do that. And so, and restaurants aren't that busy around here.
Yeah.
So I'm just amazed that they seem to, do so well with just the local people. So I think, not us, because we're, I guess, not really quite considered local, but locals do want to, patronize local businesses. The people around here do. They're really good about that. We have a little local restaurant across the street. They have the best chicken cordon bleu.
Cool. I haven't had that in a long time.
And so, did you know it's a Swiss dish?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, they have a great cordon bleu selection across, and I can walk there.
Yeah.
See, it's like I walk out the front door of the apartment. I go across the railroad tracks. It takes me, less than a minute to get to the railroad track. Walk across the railroad track, and it's less than a minute to get to the restaurant. Is that close? And it passes another restaurant before I get there.
Oh my gosh.
Just little places. They're just kind of little places. But yeah, I'm really hoping that someday y'all can come visit.
Yeah, definitely. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. So tell me, work. So y'all got, everybody got to take yesterday. So you have to work sometimes on weekends, right?
Yeah, I work every other Saturday, but only from 9 to 12.
I didn't know it was every other Saturday. Wow, that's quite a lot. But you get a day off during the week, right?
Like a half day, because it's such a short shift on Saturday that they pick a day during the week that you get a half day.
And you don't get to choose that day? They choose it for you?
So you can put in a request to choose it, but they just choose it for you.
Yeah. So then how do you get doctor's appointments and stuff like that done?
Well, they do have a very generous PTO. So, and as long as it's a couple of weeks ahead of time, you can usually get approved, avoiding Mondays and Fridays because those are usually denied. But yeah, they're really good about that. And even if you have to call out, it's no one cares.
Yeah.
That's one of the pros, is that as much as I am not loving what I do, they're very, very lenient in things that you need. Like if the kids get sick and I got to go pick them up, I literally just say, hey, I have to leave, and I go. No one cares. So that definitely helps. A lot of flexibility.
So do you feel like it's always you, the mom, that has to pick up the sick kid?
Oh, no. Well,
okay.
It depends. If it's later in the afternoon, Justin's usually more accessible. It depends on where he is. If he's nearby, it's okay. But if he's out of town, then it's harder.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't mind because he doesn't get the PTO that I do. So I can get paid for picking up the kids, and he doesn't get paid for picking up the kids. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, we have it.
Sorry. No, it's okay. My watch went off, and then I was trying to clear it, and then I knocked over the microphone. It's okay.
I was going to ask you something else. I think it was about work. Well, somebody's going into her senior year of high school.
Yes.
Have you found that, like, now that you've kind of reached that threshold, is she, like, I mean, not just staying at school and like not need to come home or anything? You think she does better in school at this age?
Um, it depends. Now that she's older and in the teenager phase, I think there's a lot more missing of school because we're very okay with like bad period days or
Yeah.
mental health days.
Yeah.
So I feel like she does miss school often, but she's not sick more often.
Yeah. I wish I didn't get there. I didn't get to that acceptance of, okay, until Brooke was in like middle school. And then, well, probably even late elementary school. I was like, look, if you can't do it, you can't do it.
Yeah.
And I would get letters from the county and saying, Brooke's missed 20 days so far. And I was like, well, look at her grades.
Right.
Is she
Exactly.
failing?
Yeah.
Is she making straight A's? Because if
As long
she's failing, I'll talk to you. But I
Yeah.
mean, they would threaten to come after me. They threatened to, hold Brooke back. And I was like, well, she's doing better than a lot of kids.
They're a lot more strict now. At her high school, they've changed the policies to where they can have a maximum of 8 absences per semester or they can't graduate, which I mean is pretty lenient, but it's still the 2020s. So
Right.
kids are getting COVID, kids are getting pneumonia, kids are being out for a solid week at a time. And then and they give you a warning. It's hilarious. So the school sends me an update on her grades every Monday. And on the update, it has a big alert that says your child is at risk of failing due to absences. Bruh, no, she's not. Leave me alone.
Right. That was me. Yeah.
No, she's.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous because if your kid is sick or hospitalized or whatever, you have to go and fill out an exception form and have it approved by the school board. Like, why can't you feel like my kid is sick?
Yeah.
I understand the importance of going to school and getting your education, but there's still a limit. I feel like there's a difference between goofing off and being sick.
Right. And you never know when that sickness is going to come.
Yep.
And to me, and that was what I would say, of course, we didn't have that strict policy when Brooke was, but I was always look, if she is falling behind in work, if she's not able to catch up.
I was
And
ahead of
honestly
everyone.
This is just my opinion. And look, from an educator perspective, if kids are able to get the work done at home, they're going to have to take that test if you can see in the first test what they missed and how they fell through the cracks. And then we address it then. But I just don't, I think attendance policies are, look, I know there's chronic absenteeism in the US. I get that. I've seen it. I know. But, I just feel like you have to, it's one of those things that it has to be an individual thing that you address with students and their parents. I don't think you can just put one policy and make it fit for every single student.
I agree.
I mean, because I worked with in special education, and you know what? There just are days these kids can't do it. They can't do that. Their social battery is completely empty.
Yeah.
They've done it and done it and done it and done it. And then there comes a time when they're empty. And you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And, honestly, what job are they going to have that is not most likely going to have policies like yours, a professional career?
Struggled, and like this is what I was gonna say with like the whole absence thing. I really struggled with like connecting with my peers because I felt like I was so ahead of everyone. And like, I mean, we saw this a lot. Like my sophomore year when I took chemistry, I was like 3 or 4 at least assignments. Maybe it was like a whole unit ahead of the entire class because it just like it was so like easy. Like I literally would sit in the back of the class and do extra work. And so that's why I didn't want to go to class.
Yeah.
'Cause like I just it felt ridiculous to be there when like everyone is doing one thing and I'm like, this is too easy. Right.
And I think that is when we're not able to engage every student, when we have to when we have to make assignments so easy that other students like Brooke are not getting challenged, that's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And so, and it's also a problem when we have to move the class on and somebody is behind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a problem both ways. But you know what? There should also, the standards should not be that every sophomore has to take a certain class. I remember, I don't know what it was like when you were in school, Crystal, but when I was in school, we got to every semester, well, no, because we had 45-minute classes. So we had like 7 or 8 classes for the whole year. So I had, but I mean, and we got to choose like, by the end of our freshman year, we were on a path. Not necessarily, well, I don't know. Some of us were on a path by middle school. But we were on a path and they kind of kept us in the classes that had us on that path. Like the math path, yes, mine started in middle school. And so I got, I was in a certain math group. And, the good thing about that was, I was with the same students for 4 years. Because we were all on that path to go a certain way, a certain level. And we got to choose like electives, but other than that, it was kind of, I don't know, it just seemed like I was not in a class where somebody who couldn't keep up. So I didn't have to work on my own the way Brooke had to work on her own. So, I mean, were you in block scheduling, like 1.5 hour classes, or did you have 45? So you had already started, the block scheduling had already started when you, okay. So I just can't imagine that. I cannot imagine sitting in a class for 1.5 hours. No way my brain could have done it.
Time when there was literally nothing to do. So it was awful.
Yeah.
Well, which is so crazy. When I was studying abroad, our classes were 3 hours long, right? But we would get a break in the middle of it, but we only had like 1 class a day, right? Like I had 4 classes the entire semester. I had Tuesdays off, and then I had a class in the afternoon, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then a morning class on Friday. And I loved that so much. And then like going back to like the US schedule for university, like after that was just crazy, where you'd have what, like 3, 4, there was my senior year, second semester, I had 5 classes in a row starting at like 11 a.m. Was it 5 classes? Maybe it was just 4 classes. Because then I would be done by 5:30.
I know you had to take a Cliff Bar or something.
Yeah, I used to bring snacks
because couldn't get lunch.
Exhausting.
Yeah, that does sound exhausting.
Yeah.
But it's
and those were all
it's
hour
kind
and
of
a half
cool to
classes
see
too.
different, schedules that different schools do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in Finland, these kids get for sure an hour of recess every day. They only are in class for like 40 minutes. Then next up to that hour, they kind of are on their own recess type thing. They don't start school till they're 7, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But, now here in Switzerland, talking about the path, you kind of find your path before you're out of elementary school. Like if you're paying attention in school and you're doing well and your parents want you to possibly think about one day you might get to go to college, they'll go ahead and put you on a path if you can handle it. But if you can't handle it, they're not going to let you. You got to earn it, and you got to figure out a way to do it yourself.
Oh, wow.
They're putting people to work.
Yeah.
Kids go to work at 15 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're 15, they're kind of, before 15, they had some classes and had some different experiences. So like all the classes are sort of like labs, except for like math and reading, stuff like that, and writing. But other than that, they kind of have these lab classes. And like Like these technicians at the doctor's office, they didn't go to college.
Oh, wow.
They found out they
Love
liked
that.
it and they trained them.
Mm-hmm.
They trained them when they were like up to 15, 16 years old. Then the doctor's office hired them and they go through the training kind of with the doctor's office. And then if they want to go to med school, it's a lot easier to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor helps you get there.
Start with experience.
Mm-hmm. And it's really the same thing, you know, with, you know, like lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if it's true. I don't want to say it because I don't know if it's true. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, you know, the goal of education here, at least, is to make you a part of society.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting saddled with student debt. You're not getting saddled with the fact that, you know, you got to know somebody to get a job, you know, and, you know, so it, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's interesting to me.
It definitely is.
Yeah. So I don't know the orange and brownish. I don't know what those writes. I don't know that color scheme. Well, who's that?
Oh,
Who's that color scheme for?
skin color.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Sorry. From the computer, you know, I was seeing orange because
Yeah, you can't really tell.
Yeah.
It
But
makes
that
it-
makes sense. I love it, love it, love it. Because, you know, and I know that you and I probably agree on this. I never understood how we got away from humanity and treating people just as humans.
Right.
Where did we venture away from that? How did that happen? I just don't understand it. Brooke, I mean,
don't know.
seriously, in your
I mean, there's-
household, were you taught you're better than anybody else?
No.
You better not.
And
I hope I didn't do that.
I mean, there is like, so, well, okay, because like in history, I don't know like why, so like when they started the slave trade, they did see like the interesting thing is like the people in Africa were originally like back in the like prehistoric times, the African people were like the richest societies because there were all this like gold and salt and like minerals in the earth, and then at some point like that all shifted to Europe, right? And so these societies, because of like the like trade and all that, started to like lose their resources, and other societies started to become like richer and more successful. And then when the slave trade started, the reason that they chose Africans was because they had resistance to diseases like malaria. And so like what you see with there are certain diseases that people, so like sickle cell anemia, that's very common in African Americans. And one thing that it helps with is like it's a terrible, absolutely debilitating disease, but it can cause a resistance to malaria. So you were seeing like these were the people that had resistance to these types of diseases, and that's why they were brought to the US or the Caribbean to be slaves, because they had one, the darker skin color that allowed them to not get sunburnt, not get
But they can't get
probably
sunburned.
well, yeah, but not as visibly, not as
Yeah.
much pain, not as often as white people, right? And like you even saw it with darker skinned Italians too, being not necessarily slaves, but what was it called? Sharecroppers, where they would be paid less because they had the ability to work in the fields without having the same kind of pain and issues that white people had. And that kind of turned into it them being treated less than, and that's what started like the separation of the races and the classes and all the issues that we have today.
Yeah, I just, you know, I went to the same school
crazy.
that your daughter goes to, my grand,
Mm.
and I did see, segregation. I hope that I didn't encourage it, but I'm scared I did. Not intentionally, but
Mhm.
just because, you know, working with a teenage brain.
Mhm.
I mean, now I know, but I didn't know then because
Right.
I was only working with a half to 2/3 of a brain.
Mhm.
So, and most of it was emotional because that's how our brain develops. But I I I definitely can look back and see the cafeteria, and I think they use the same room still for the cafeteria probably. Um, I could see the separation and didn't think anything of it. Didn't let it bother me.
Uh, Not so much like forceful separation, but a lot more of just gravitating towards people that you have things in common with. And I think the opposite is also partially what had to do with the slave trade and things like that, is just the fear of things that are different and not
Yeah.
understanding and not wanting to take time to understand. So you're
Yeah.
like, live in my neighborhood, or know my grandma or whatever, so we're gonna be friends now. It's just
Yeah,
have in common.
yeah. I just, I don't know. I remember, as a kid, we didn't have many people in our room.
Mhm.
So let's say there were, let's see, 1, 2, 3 in my family. Next door, Lord God, they had 7 or 8 kids. Then there was one kid down at the end of the road. And that was all the kids on that street.
Yeah.
One kid at the end of the road was our only black neighbor.
Mhm.
His name was, I thought he was so cool
Yeah.
because he always had a cool bike.
Mhm.
He taught me to play basketball. And he was smaller than me.
Mhm.
But I can remember there was a basketball court. We had to, like, there was a park, but we had to walk to it.
Mhm.
And I wasn't allowed to walk to it. But when one of the girls next door would go, she was my age, would take his basketball, and it'd be me, her, and my.
Mhm.
We wouldn't tell anybody where we were going, but we'd go to the park and play basketball. And, I'll never forget, I couldn't do a free throw. So he taught me how to do what they call the granny shot.
Mhm.
And then I couldn't miss. And he was just like so thrilled. Okay, well, you can be on my team now. And I
Wow.
never thought anything of it until I was told that I could never go to his house. He could never come to our house. And then it started becoming odd to me. And then we moved you know, and we moved to an area that we were the different ones. Southmont. It's not necessarily our neighborhood, but the town in general.
Mhm.
Our neighborhood was, I guess it was part of the gentrification of that
Okay.
area of High Rock Lake, that part of High Rock Lake.
Yeah.
And so, we were looked at as, and we did not have money. We were dirt poor, but still compared to, the way we were looked at as people with money.
Right.
Just because, well, we were white and we lived in that part of the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I just, it's still, I wish I could go back and, at least kind of make things right. Even though I don't know what I did wrong.
Yeah.
I still want to make things right.
I get that.
I think my biggest part is because now I have kids. And, I don't know if you have the same experience as a mother, but, all my kids are so different.
Mhm.
And yet, I feel like they could each have a target on them,
Yeah.
having to live in the United States. And that scares
Yeah.
me. So, I mean, I don't know how you feel as a mom, but, with your two, but, I see, the baby getting his, baseball glove on and, already starting to, want to be on the field and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's kind of a funny thing how I don't know, how we work with our kids. And it's not that we're trying to make them one way or another.
Mhm.
It's just that we only know what we had experience with. And so we
Exactly.
kind of parent with our experiences.
Right.
And so I think that, I mean, because trust me, I felt like I was close to my kids. I felt like my kids could tell me anything. And if my kids struggled coming out, I can't imagine
Right.
a kid who didn't
Yeah.
have that kind of relationship. And it's going to make me cry because I thought my kids could tell me anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know they were struggling to come out.
Yeah.
And it's still, I still question, how could you not feel comfortable? But I evidently, I mean, I think that that's part of the coming out experience, maybe that maybe we all don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
there've been so many good books written, but even with the books, everybody's experience is different.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Much internalizing with that it's not always your fault. It's not something that you did to make
right.
it that way. It's just how hard it is in general.
Absolutely. And that's what, that has been my experience is thinking, what a tough, and then it makes me say, I'm so proud
Right.
that my kids can feel proud enough and strong enough to be true
Mm-hmm.
to themselves. So that part makes me really proud,
Yeah.
but it also kind of, I also kind of wondered, I hate that they struggled. I hate them. I hate that they struggled. And I hate that they were scared. So I never want my kids to be scared.
Exactly. I get that.
I just don't want them to be scared. I want them to trust themselves. And I think that's something I hope that I always said, trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I hope kids trust themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you I'm kind of afraid to ask this question. Is there anything that you look back on and think, boy, I really wish I'd have done that different?
I don't know. I feel like obviously in parenting there's a lot.
Yes.
I think the main thing is when I was born, I had pretty bad postpartum depression, but I didn't want to admit it. And it took me a really long time to get help.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I wish I had done that sooner. But that's the main thing that I think about with that question.
Yeah. What about you, Brooke?
What?
I mean, Brooke's young, but still, I mean, there still could be
Oh, yeah.
regrets.
I mean, like, one thing that like I've been coming back to a lot is like when I was around 10 or 11, like not auditioning for like a ballet school or something because like I knew that was the time when like I really, really loved ballet and I still like I really love it now. And like I took a break where I wanted to focus on other styles and like now I'm thinking about it and like the best option I would have had to get into dance was ballet because I was good at it. And I did like I loved it and I knew like I loved it enough that I could do it for the rest of my life and I think the later when I was still dancing and like I was struggling to like figure out like I knew that I wanted to keep dancing but I couldn't figure out like how that was gonna happen. It was because I just really knew that I should have like auditioned for a school or like a company's school or something like that.
And you were
That's the
right
big one.
close to one.
Yeah.
We were really
Yeah.
close to, yeah. I mean, just right down the road.
Yeah.
I didn't know you felt that way. I mean, I know your brother wishes, and this is a huge regret I have. I wish I'd known how to be a better parent to teenagers. I just failed miserably.
I still do.
So, well, I've got a good book for you.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're gonna feel about it, but I mentioned it last week on our podcast. It was written by Sue Klebold, Dylan Klebold's mom.
Okay.
And I mean, I couldn't put it down. I read it in a day.
Wow.
I could not put it down. I mean, everything fell by the wayside in this apartment. I didn't talk to Brooke. I didn't, everybody leave me alone. Let me cry through this book.
Wow.
It's called A Mother's Reckoning. And I've got it on Kindle. But it really taught me about how to really parent as a teenager. I mean, parent a teenager. I learned a lot through like when I was working on that last degree, when I was working on that, had a lot of research I had to read and do. And so I learned a lot about teenagers.
Right.
And teenagers through education. It was through that perspective, but still it was a lot. And one thing that I learned is that teenagers they're naturally prone to pull away. And I thought, well, if you're a good enough parent, that won't happen. And I was wrong about that, because it is a natural tendency for people in general to eventually want to find themselves. And they can't do it if they're constantly, being inundated, I guess is the best word, with how they're supposed to be. They can't find who they're supposed to be.
Right.
They're told constantly how they're supposed to be. And I think I was the kind of parent that told them how they're supposed to be. I wasn't good at listening. And your husband told me this when he was in 8th grade.
Really?
Yes. I was a teacher at his school. And I was, I was me. Everything had to be organized. I couldn't stand when I'd walk by his locker and it'd be open and crap was piling out. So every once in a while, I'd go straighten up his locker, not take anything out, not read anything, just straighten up the papers, straighten up the books. And one of his friends said, "Doesn't that bother you that your mom goes in your locker?" And he said, "Nope, because it's just how she is." But then one day he was talking to me after school, and I was immediately offering advice. And he said, "I need you to listen.
Wow.
You never listen. If you already have a response before I finish saying what I'm going to say, I just need you to listen." And that
He doesn't
say and it's so funny because I learned a little bit. I was better about listening after that. By the time Brooke comes along, I still forgot to say the question, and we just talked about this too. I forgot to ask the question, do you want my advice or do you want me to just listen? And I still forget that. My kids the youngest is now 22.
Right.
And I still forget when they're talking to me to say, do you want my advice? Do you want me to just, I'm better at listening because of Justin.
Yeah. It's so hard. Even with little stuff, like it will be like, I baked cookies and they turned out weird. And I'll immediately be like, well, did you do this? Did you do this? Maybe you should do this next time, instead of, I got to remember to be like, oh, that sucks.
Yep.
You want to talk about it, Yeah,
exactly. That's a really good example. Yeah, because that's a simple thing. That's something she loves to do.
Yeah.
And she's good at it. So good at it. And yet, so that's, I don't know if she's interested in opening a bakery with Amelia, but Amelia loves to bake too, and is really good at it. Well, wouldn't that be a cool family business?
That would be so cool.
Yeah. So even though I was told I have to watch eating my sugar, so.
No,
I was told in the same day, listen to this, the same day, one day, he says, no more alcohol, no more sugar. And then told me that my triglycerides are high. I look up triglycerides and it said no eggs.
Oh, no.
So I'm hit with those 3 things in one day. So, and needless to say, I was depressed up until Well, up until this minute, and I got to talk to you, and now I feel better. But, well, we're probably gonna wrap this up. Man,
Yeah.
we're so glad. Do you feel like, because I was asking this to our guests, and then I forgot the
Well,
past 2 months.
you
And
weren't
I
on the
wasn't
one-
on last month because I was
Yeah.
sick. So, but do you feel like you're living your purpose?
I don't feel like I know what that means. I mean, like I know what that means, but
Yeah, right. But
know.
in your own life, it's hard to define that.
I don't think I've found it yet.
Okay. I think that I found, but I didn't figure it out until I was, I
Yeah.
found that the hat I'm wearing at the time, that's my purpose. Like when they
Right.
were little, that was my purpose,
Mhm.
and I honestly don't know how I did it with all these little kids. I don't know how I
Yeah.
did it.
Gosh.
But then, the hat changed when they became teenagers. They were all running in different directions. And this is what I was going to say about Mason. And I'm going to stop, I promise. But I wish I had been a better parent as to teenagers when Mason was talking to me about going and living with a different family in another country to play hockey.
Wow.
I said, absolutely not. And I regret that day, and I will never forgive myself for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because had I known how to be the parent of a teenager, and had he found that sponsor family and that team that wanted him, I should have jumped right on that and said, absolutely, we will support you no matter what. I didn't know how to do that. And I know a lot of it was kind of how I was raised.
Yeah.
I know it was because I wasn't allowed. I told you I couldn't go to the park.
Same.
I sneak to the park.
Yeah.
And so, and then I parented the same way. The things I didn't like are the same things I did as a parent. And
It's hard.
I regret it. But I do think that you're gonna see all your purpose changes year to year.
Yeah.
And I think that that you find it. But I don't know if you like that book. I hope that Oh, well, I want to ask, did you like Demon Copperfield? Or Demon Copperhead? Demon Copperhead. Sorry, didn't I get you that one year for Christmas? It's a real big book. Barbara Kingsolver.
It may not have read it yet.
Okay, man, it's good. You're gonna like it.
I have a lot.
I think you're gonna like it. Like it.
On the bookshelf.
Yeah. Oh, I do too.
The other day, oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed. This is along the same lines as not listening as a parent. At work, I normally read on my Kindle because it's easier than bringing a physical book to work.
Mhm.
And you can download a new one whenever you want. And I was telling how I finished a book and I didn't know what book to read next. And she was like, Mom, I got you a book for Christmas. And I was like, oh God. So I immediately brought it to work. But
Okay.
yeah, I have a lot on my list of the reads, but I'll have to look and see if I have that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I really, really, really liked it. That was another one that was one of these huge books I couldn't put down. Now it took me a couple of days, but still it was days that I isolated myself just to read. And I find when I do that and kind of take care of my own mental health, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And I'll take a few days to just read. I need to be spending more time writing and trying to, make a living, but
yeah,
I'll get there.
It's a good way to decompress.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, we're going to say thank you.
Thank you.
We really, really, really appreciate you coming on. I hope we'll do it again. Maybe we'll do it this summer when we're together. We'll do Brooke. Yeah, we can call Brooke because I don't think Brooke's necessarily coming. Brooke's going to make that decision.
I was supposed to make that decision by today and I didn't.
You've probably got a bit of time. But Brooke's not decided whether or not she's going to join us in October. But if Brooke is here, we'll do it like this again, and the two of us will be together, and that will be fun. That'll be a lot of fun. I should be off my restriction by then.
I was gonna say you better be at the beach.
I know.
What will
I'm
you
taking
do?
myself off of my restriction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is,
I mean, for like a week, if you don't go too crazy, I think you'd be okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well, you're my sitter. You can't let me get to that.
All right. We'll see.
Okay, well, everyone, we really hope you've enjoyed listening.
Oh my gosh. We'll be back next week with a new bottle of wine and a new topic. If you want to join the conversation, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Wine Together Pod. Join our Facebook group, Wine Together Podcast. And if you don't want to miss out on our regular weekly episodes, along with all our bonus content, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, as well as liking, subscribing, and commenting to our YouTube, Wine Together Podcast.